What's up everybody, welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony, let's jump in. Okay, happy Wednesday everybody. The most important development currently unfolding in the People's Republic of China continues to be the highly disruptive and increasingly unpopular lockdowns of Shanghai and other urban centers. China's financial hub, Shanghai, reported just over 3,000 confirmed locally transmitted COVID-19 cases and just over 17,000 local asymptomatic cases on Monday. These are officially recognized cases in the city of 25 to 26 million people. This number declined slightly to just under 19,000 cases on Tuesday, yesterday. So despite efforts this week to try and get to some sort of turning point by Wednesday, the numbers unsurprisingly are still very much in the tens of thousands. And over the last 2 days, China has officially recognized 10 deaths due to COVID. State media has begun writing articles about the vulnerability of unvaccinated elderly residents, which, like Hong Kong, represents a large group relative to the population, with experts calling for higher vaccination rates and the use of more effective overseas produced vaccines. State media could be preparing the general public for a national vaccination push, of which the degree of coerciveness to be adopted is still unclear. According to state media, nationwide, the rate of fully vaccinated people aged above 60 years of age sits at around 79%. As we move into this week, we are seeing some residential compounds opening up. However, the majority of people still remain either restricted to their apartment complex or to their home. At the beginning of the week, retail and grocery chains began opening up online delivery services, with large chains operating at about 60% capacity, according to local sources. This has eased some of the food pressure on many communities, though frustrating issues with food and medical supplies for some continue into this week. This is especially the case for Shanghai's migrant worker population. In the last 48 hours too, local authorities have begun urging residents to continue cooperating with PCR testing, which requires people to come out and join a long queue, in some cases every day. There are reports of people refusing to do the tests due to wariness after weeks of such requirements, or fear it puts them in greater risk of infection, a fear that is not exactly unfounded. Meanwhile, China's top COVID-19 expert, Zhong Nanshan, in an English editorial titled "Strategies for Reopening in the Forthcoming COVID-19 Era in China," published in National Science Review, expressed that China cannot pursue dynamic zero COVID in the long term and should reopen and adapt to global reopening too. The Chinese version, which was published domestically on Monday, 2 days ago, has already been deleted within China. Another quick thing, Tangshan, a steel-making hub about 100 miles from the capital of Beijing, which hosts about 13% of China's steel output, has reinforced COVID-19 lockdowns in some districts just over a week after lifting citywide curbs, locking down 5 districts from 6 a.m. Tuesday after the discovery of 29 cases. Now let's end this part with a comment from an academic at Beijing's prestigious Peking University. Quote, "Looking at the number of people from across different backgrounds who spoke up and the intensity of their expression, this has been the most massive public display of anger since Xi," here referring to General Secretary, the leader of the country, "came to power in 2012. But the public discontent is fragmented and doesn't amount to a momentum that can impact Xi. Since Xi has already removed all viable opponents, the public anger now can't do much to him." End quote. We will be discussing the economic costs and the global risks from the lockdown due to the lockdowns in China in part 4 of today's video, Chinese economic and financial developments. As always guys, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the like button, it really does help. And for anyone who wants to go the extra mile and show their appreciation by helping keep this channel sustainable, if you like what I do and you want to keep it sustainable, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee and crypto links are in the description below. As always, thank you so much everybody for all your support. Cheers. Next up, in a move likely to provoke concern from the United States and its regional partners, Australia and to a lesser extent New Zealand, towards growing PRC influence in the South Pacific, yesterday, Tuesday, Beijing announced that it had signed a security pact with the Solomon Islands. Indeed, the Australian government expressed that it was, quote, deeply disappointed, end quote, by the news. Canberra is concerned that the pact could be a step towards a Chinese military presence less than 2,000 kilometres, 1,200 miles, from Australia's shores. The last time a large adversarial power was this close, it was the Empire of Japan. Since World War II, Australia's key foreign policy objective has been to work with an external power, first the UK, then the US, to prevent a hegemon from forming in East Asia, and to keep an adversarial power from establishing a military presence in the South Pacific. The announcement of the Security Pact came just hours after the White House confirmed that Kurt Campbell, its top Asia official, and Daniel Crissenbrick, Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, would visit the Solomon Islands this week. The agenda included discussions of any security agreements with the People's Republic of China, as well as the reopening of the US Embassy. Solomon Island officials had also appeared earlier to suggest that no agreement had yet been signed, with the Prime Minister telling Parliament that a proposed security agreement would not include a Chinese military base. Anticipating a US and Australian reaction, Beijing was ready to push back, with a Foreign Ministry spokesperson in Beijing expressing yesterday, quote, "Why does the US bother to visit an island country where its embassy has been shut down for 29 years? To care about the country's development status or try to achieve other purposes?" End quote. The Chinese Foreign Ministry expressed that the bilateral security pact will help the Solomon Islands, quote, enhance its capacity for maintaining social order and protecting the safety of people's lives and property, end quote. Attitudes towards China on the ground in the Solomon Islands are mixed and complex. The Chinatown district in the island's national capital was burned down during 3 days of riots last November. Okay, next up, for the quote of the week, we're going to look at a piece published in a leading party publication, 九事, or the Seeking Truth journal this week, by Deputy Director of the Central National Security Commission Office and Head of the Ministry of State Security, Chen Wenqing. The piece titled, "Firmly Establish and Practice Comprehensive National Security Thinking and Write a New Chapter of National Security in the New Era," explores the theme of so-called national security ideology. The piece, I think, speaks for itself. Quote, "We have firmly safeguarded regime security, institutional security, and ideological security, withstood and countered extreme external suppression and containment, promoted a major turnaround in the situation in Hong Kong from chaos to governance, carried out in-depth struggles related to Taiwan, Xinjiang, Tibet, and the South and East China Seas. The courage to struggle and win is an invincible and powerful spiritual force of the party and the people. A peaceful environment comes from struggle, not from compromise. National security thinking always focuses on the realization of the Chinese dream, of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese race, also sometimes translated officially as Chinese nation. National sovereignty, security, and development interests have been comprehensively safeguarded. The general social situation has remained stable for a long time, and China has become one of the most secure countries in the world." End quote. Finally, let's end with several important economic and financial updates. And the first of these, a series of institutions have cut their GDP forecasts for Chinese growth this year due to several strong headwinds, despite Beijing's commitment to a growth rate of 5.5% and trillions of dollars in stimulus already announced. On Monday, UBS downgraded its gross domestic product growth forecast to 4.2% from 5%, quote, "in light of the intensified downward pressure on the economy," end quote, with its economists noting that they expect more policy support, quote, "mainly in the form of more infrastructure investment, stronger credit growth, and easier property policy," end quote. This is very much what we have been saying on China Update for some time now. The same day, Barclays economists cut their assessment to 4.3%, quote, "in expectation that COVID disruptions will be prolonged," end quote. Standard Chartered revised its full-year GDP projection to 5% from 5.3% the same day also. And on this theme, on Tuesday, yesterday, the International Monetary Fund slashed its world growth forecast by the most since the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, as well as China's renewed lockdowns. The global forecast was revised down from 4.4% growth to 3.6% growth for 2022. The IMF reduced its forecast for Chinese growth, bringing it almost 1.5% lower than Beijing's goal, while also flagging risks with rising debt levels in China, increasing financial stability risks. The fund sees inflation this year at 5.7% in advanced economies and 8.7% in emerging and developing economies, significantly higher than just a few months ago. Continuing with our theme this week of exploring China's official Q1 data, China's central government-owned enterprises reported slower growth in revenues and profits in the first quarter. State-owned enterprises, SOEs, directly under the central government's control, posted revenue of 9 trillion yuan, $1.4 trillion in Q1 of this year, up 15.4% from the same period last year, versus the 30% growth seen year-on-year in Q1 of 2021. And one more financial update while we're here. On Monday, Jack Ma's financial tech giant Ant Group Co. Limited announced a deal to acquire a Singaporean payment platform, 2C2P Limited, seen by analysts as a move to boost growth in the promising Southeast Asian market. 2C2P operates in key Southeast Asian markets including Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia, where the digital payment sector is expected to grow 13% from 2021 to 2025, with gross transaction value surpassing $1 trillion by that year, according to a recent report co-written with Google and other consulting firms. The deal would make Ant Group its majority shareholder, though no price or other figure were given for the acquisition. According to Ant, the deal would connect 2C2P with Alipay Plus, a cross-border online payment platform rolled out in 2020 by Ant Group. Hey guys, I'd love to hear what you thought about some of the updates we covered in today's episode, so throw your comments below. Always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.